not Cheezo5. And I'm Simply.
And I'm Cheese.
Dude. This is the Two Dads Podcast Live.
Listen, this Cheezo5 thing, man, it has to die. No, I mean, I expected this to happen with the Cheezo5. It's gonna happen for a while. It's gonna be like, everyone told me this too. It's like 3 months, people are still gonna call you Cheezo5 all the time. But it's okay. It's all right. I don't mind. So
awesome.
Big Sim.
Well,
yeah, give me the news. What's today about?
Yeah, I got some news for you. While Piti and Limcube sit quietly in the wrong squares. All right, so speedrun news for you all.
We had a little mistake, a little mishap.
Right. Starting from the top, there has been some stuff going on. I think I covered the Super Mario Bros. It's kind of getting heated. Some West, Cosmic, it's getting a little saucy. They're pushing the limit. Will we see a 454? Maybe, possibly, in theory. A 454.798 appears to be the limit, according to Speedrun Reddit. But, anywho, Chaos Pringle has been cooking it up in Super Mario Odyssey. Just took another. I'm pretty sure he already had record, and he improved it with a 1 hour and 52-second time.
That was last night, I believe. Or,
2 days ago,
2 days ago,
according to this post. Yeah.
That's insane.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. It's definitely coming down. That sub 1 looking more real every single day.
Apparently, he's been finishing like sub 101 runs every day. He's
really
popping off.
I believe it. I mean, he's gotten the world record and he's been keeping his spot. But don't count anybody out. It's Equan, right?
Aquan. Honestly, people meme about it. I don't know what his actual name is, but it's something.
Man, I just gotta say, Super Mario Odyssey, the competition is insane. The top 4 have all PB'd within the past 2 weeks, and the space from first place Chaos Pringle to Acrid is only 10 seconds, 13 seconds. It's getting a little heated. A lot of things in speedrunning, but I'll continue. Celeste, of course, has gone way out of proportion. It's popping off. Any % current patch in 2849.
Sub 29 already.
Yeah, by TGH. I guess there's a new glitch. What do you know about it?
I mean, the only thing that's really new is the fact that they don't do 5. They don't do the A side of chapter 5 anymore. They do B side. So the Mirror Temple, which is chapter 5, they always did A side, and with certain strats and stuff, they were able to do the B side of chapter 5. That's faster. I don't know how much faster. I don't think it's that much faster, but that on top of just tons of new strats, because like Celeste is like, dude, thousands of strats. I don't know how much rooms there are on any %, but there are lots, and each room has like 10 strats you can do. So it's just like there's always new strats. There's always like more stuff you can do, and it just keeps going down and down. And TGH on top of that is one of the most insane speedrunners of all time, so that's another thing. Acrid with the host, 49,000 viewers. Thank you, Acrid.
Thanks, Acrid.
We're just talking about you.
Hello, everyone, by the way. Happy Friday. Feels good. We made it another week. It's time to keep it going. Super Mario 64, again, nonstop, making its presence known. You got Lunar Jump with a 10:48 and 16-star nonstop. He's actually super happy with that time, apparently. How do you feel about the whole nonstop thing? I know we talked about that on the last episode, but
so I don't know.
Thoughts?
I don't think I've ever seen a nonstop 16-star run, but I'm guessing that's the new world record. No. Or Lunar officially has it. Okay. So nonstop has been shining in the tournament scene, like big time.
Yep.
So there was a few showcases of nonstop lately, and then there was a huge reaction. People loved it. It was insanely, because it's competitive. It's insane. It's insanely fast. It's like So the tournament is going great. And shout out to GSA for running the nonstop 70 tournament. And from running that tournament, there's been like 4 times the amount or even more of non-stop runners that started doing non-stop again, and now it's just like literally it's the most competitive category apart from like 16 star at the moment. So that's, dude, people say certain categories are, I guess, arbitrary, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter. It's about who, how many people take part, I guess, and actually take it seriously. So
yeah. The last time I checked the nonstop 70 leaderboard, I want to say there was like less than 20 people on it, and now approaching 30. I don't know how many people are submitting, but there's definitely people honing in, perfecting their craft, cutting that time down. So it's interesting to see how that's coming along. But other than that, pretty typical stuff. New world records being set in games I've never seen or know anything about. So, yeah.
You don't know anything about. So about this, actually, we'll talk about that with when the guys are here. So okay, before we are you think we're ready to dive in with the beautiful guests we have in the?
I'm ready to dive in. I've got my swim cap on. I've got my Speedo securely strapped onto my cheeks. Let's go.
One little issue though. So we have some camera names switch ups.
Okay.
Actually,
I can flip them if you'd like.
Yeah, I was about to ask. You could just like switch the names on the layout. I could just pop it on. It takes like 2 seconds.
I have that much power. Yes.
All right,
just give me a moment.
But
while I'm doing that, give me a little intro. What's going to be happening today on the Two Dads podcast? Cheese.
Today we have 2 beautiful men.
Arguable.
They are, yeah. Well, you guys would see for yourself. We have 2 very prominent members in the speedrunning world. As of recently, they're part of GSA. There are 2 of some of the core commentators, if you may, in not only GSA but the speedrunning scene right now. They have, along with Simply as well, they have introduced a style of commentary lately in speedrunning it's very desirable, and it involves not only so you watch a lot of GDQs and marathons in general. Sometimes the commentary can get a little bit dry. It's it's very informative, but these guys are bringing a very entertaining side of commentary these days, and
some energy.
Yeah, energy, colorful commentary, if you may, and it's booming, and people are excited about it, and now we're here to talk to them about the whole process and what they think about it and what they plan on, how they plan on doing it in the future, and blah blah blah, stuff. Okay, so you got the things for me, Sip? Okay.
I got you, buddy. Yeah, so we got Piti and Limcube. High quality men. Hello.
Wait. Okay. Wait. Okay, we good.
That looks good.
Oh, there we go. We got it.
All right.
Hey, everybody. We didn't get to change the layout yet, but hello, Piti and Limcube. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Limcube.
Yeah. Okay.
Piti, by the way.
We got the names. Give me one.
I want it to be Limcube.
I think it's frozen in the screen right now, but just trust me. Give me 1 second. Everything's gonna be a-okay.
We've got some identity crises forming here on the podcast.
We got it. We're good.
All right.
Okay.
Everything's set.
Jesus.
We're set.
All right. I thought.
What's happening, Limcube? How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Recently, have been doing a lot of, obviously, commentary work. And by the way, let me just introduce myself again. I'm Limcube. I'm not a native English speaker. I'm trying to do my best. Pretty obvious that I'm German, I think. But commentary in general, like speaking freely, is something that I always enjoyed, and I wanted to give it a shot. My passion with speedrunning doesn't even go back that long. I've been watching a ton of like Q events in the past, but SMO was really what was kicking off the speedrun thing for me. And yeah, but recently everything has been going great. GSA obviously expanding like fire. If you got the speedrun fires, you know what I'm talking about. And I've been enjoying this a lot, and I've been running not only the commentary in some GSA events, but also I've been organizing some commentator meetups where we basically talk about making this commentary thing a little bit more professional. We are trying to learn from like traditional esports, and I guess we will get all into that during the show.
Yeah, Awesome.
How about you?
How about you,
Petty?
Pitt?
You know, I'm just a guy.
Are you a guy that is by chance able to tilt his webcam a couple degrees downward?
No.
What happened here?
What
Deal
did
with
you-
it.
Oh God. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. So Pity, you've been around for a long time. You've been around for really long, longer than me.
Yeah, since like May of 2013 is when I started speedrunning.
Yeah. That's awesome. And well, you did OOT, you did Master Quest. You had the world record in OOT Master Quest for a while now.
Yeah, currently Garntrix has the record.
Mhm.
I did hold that for about a year.
Okay.
I've done Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess. I did a couple runs of Wind Waker and Wind Waker HD, and I guess like the new journey for me is Super Mario 64.
Okay. Sweet.
And how about commentating? What's your commentator story? Do you have one?
I mean, because Ocarina of Time, you know, one of the biggest speed games, you know, Super Mario 64, I'd say is the definitive #1, but Ocarina of Time, pretty close second. We've had a lot of events like that for Ocarina of Time, like online marathons or anything like that. I've also made, you know, Ocarina of Time videos where I had voiceover or like record myself talking. So I think that, you know, through all my years, you know, explaining the game to people, just like live streaming and explaining Ocarina of Time, teaching people how to play. I did have a thing on GDQ once, and there's just like there's a lot of things that I've done commentary for, and I just decided it was a thing that I liked. I mean, GSA kind of like it's a new opportunity, and I just thought that, you know, I liked commentating, so I wanted to see if I could do it, and if it'd be any good.
And you enjoy it. It's you seem very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it can be pretty lit, you know, when the races get bumping. But intros aside, it's a pleasure to have you guys on here. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, obviously.
We got some hot topics, and
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you might as well start kicking it off.
All right.
Okay, so do you want to go ahead, Sim?
Yeah. So play-by-play and color casters are like two different realms of commentary, and this is something that Limcube brought up actually in the first commentator meetup, you know, trying to sharpen our commentators at GSA. Limcube, would you like to expand on what exactly that means?
Yes. So this is obviously a term that, like, before I joined speedrunning as like a competitive player, I used to play League of Legends competitively, not as I like Diamond 3 or something, if you know what that is. It's not important, but obviously the competitive scene as far as like League of Legends broadcasting goes is huge. They rank in like 1 million viewers and more easily these days. And obviously because of that, their like commentary scene and their analyst scene has been expanding already. And a term that I heard there first, but I think this is actually from traditional sports, is the play-by-play role and the color caster role. And you don't necessarily have to be only one, but these are two different styles on like how to approach commentary. The play-by-play guy would be what people would consider the hype man or something, the guy that would literally explain what you're seeing at your screen. Like if it's a football, a soccer game, they would explain how the goal is being set up, or if it's speedrunning, basically. Or if it's speedrunning and someone is in the Bowser fight, they would explain, okay, he's going for Bowser throws right now. We see if he's actually going to land him, and he misses the bomb. That would be the play-by-play guy, right? That actually runs down what you see on screen. And then the color commentator or the color caster would be the guy that does the rundown on strats, that does maybe goes back and explains the history. This strat was found by this and this member, and he found it that and that way, and it saves, let's say, 5 seconds. And having a good balance between them is huge. And I did this meeting in the first place, by the way, to basically explain I think what we are lacking right now as we approach this topic, like casting competitive speedrun races, which we've seen them in the past on like GDQs, but not on like the highest professional level. And I think what we lack right now, at least, and it's getting way better, we're improving, everybody is improving, but good play-by-play guys is something we lack right now. Most people are liking the collar role because that's something they're comfortable with. They explain their speed game on their streams like on a regular basis.
Right.
But stepping like out of this comfort zone and going a little bit hype and explaining what is happening on the screen is something that is new now for every one of us, I think. And I myself have noticed how much it improves the quality of the race and the commentary.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Totally agree.
So going first, play-by-play, what do you guys think is a key part in being a good play-by-play commentator? Pity, thoughts? How do you do it right?
I think that to be a good play-by-play commentator, you need to know when it's time to hype, and to know when it's time to hype, I believe you need to be very observant, and I think that the key is to notice a disparity. It's just some moment where a player will either, speedrunners they can be uneven in skill, right? So it can be an area in the game where they bust out really high level movement or something really really hard that saves a small amount of time.
Pretty impressive.
Something you've never seen before. Yeah, something
Yeah.
really impressive can be that moment. Something really unimpressive can be that moment too, and that in itself is also pretty impressive. But basically, I think that being a good play-by-play is noticing those moments in which a player is either above their standard bar or below it, and then you just basically you're making an observation and you're also pointing it out to people watching. I think that's very important.
Definitely. And I think like building on top of that, the energy I feel like is the biggest piece. Like you have to have the energy, and it can be hard, especially if you don't really understand how a game works. Like I'm very comfortable with Super Mario 64. I know when somebody's losing a lot of time or when somebody's making up a lot of time. Like you can see it, but it's a little bit harder in unfamiliar territory. But definitely, like emphasizing, like people recognize that they're losing time or they're gaining time, but putting emphasis on it and explaining, like, oh my God, losing the run.
Yeah.
This is huge. 1 minute left. Can he bring it back? Things like
Right.
that.
So you raise a really quick point there, Simp. So like you being comfortable with Mario 64, for example, right? So that is like a really big issue in speedrunning, right? And people have brought it up a lot of times, like not only in commentary, but speedrunning is it's a community of tons and tons of games. It's not like League of Legends. It's its own thing, and then they have League of Legends commentators. Speedrunning is like there are speedrunning commentators, but there's so many games, and if you don't know a game, the commentary it gets affected. It gets kind of changed. So like you're comfortable with Mario 64, you know how to commentate Mario 64, you're accustomed to the play-by-play in that game, certain moments in the game, and then a tournament race comes in a different game like Mario Kart Double Dash or something, and you have to like step up and do it. But can you? Do you feel comfortable? You don't know the game? Is that going to affect you? What's going to happen at that point?
So I think at least the play-by-play cast, and that's his advantage, and that is also why we need to build more of these people, is that this skill set, and Simply brought it up, is definitely way easier to transfer to like another speed game. If we look at like these SMB1 races that are currently happening, you don't, as a play-by-play guy, you don't have to know what inputs you need to press to get like the wall clip in 4-2, or you don't need to know how to do the bullet bill glitch. You don't need to know that. But what you do need to know is, what you do need to do is at least like watch the games closely and abuse situations, like something that is really important. And when the World Peace Grand Finals were happening in SMO, I really tried to abuse situations like when races are really close and someone Simply brought it up, someone is making a mistake, you definitely need to highlight that. You cannot just let that go. Like that's what actually, like if you look at our recent announcement, and like the most hype moments is when someone misses something in a close situation and completely like turns around the potential outcome of the race. And you can do that for every speed game. If someone dies in in like 8-4, if someone dies on the summit in Celeste, that's still the same. It doesn't change for the play-by-play guy. As a color caster, you should definitely know how much time a certain strat saves, or you should know how much how you play the game. I'm not saying you shouldn't be familiar at all with the game as a play-by-play guy, but the play-by-play guy can definitely transfer his skills to other games easier.
Right.
That's a good point. Because, I mean, you can use your eyes and be like, okay, he's clearly ahead.
Yeah.
And clearly a close race.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good point. But go ahead.
I was going to ask Piti, do you think, I heard you mention before that that you're looking forward to learning other games, to be able to speedrun other games. Do you think it'll be a challenge? Do you think it's like worth learning so much about a game to be able to do you think it's like too much work, or do you think it's always worth it at the end to actually be able to commentate a bunch more games if you need to?
Well, I think that actually color commentary for a game that you're not too familiar with isn't too hard. I think it's all about enabling your partner, because we always commentate in duos, or we try to.
Yeah.
And then if you have like a little bit of prior knowledge, I guess you could do it with zero knowledge, but if you just do a little bit of research beforehand, you can, instead of, telling people, how much time that saves or how it's done, you just ask the right questions. So you get the other commentator to fill the gaps for you. And I feel like maybe doing a little bit of a hybrid there, when you're doing a game that you're not familiar with, is good. So you enable the other commentator to do the color commentating. So you ask him the questions, and then he fills in the gaps. And then what you do is you try to, hype up the play-by-play, like, oh man, it looks like he just lost like a ton of time there, something like that. Basically, I think that playing a really good support role in a game that you don't know, where you hype them up and you also get them to explain things, is really good for a game that you don't know. But yeah, I think that learning a new speed run for the commentary could be pretty fun. I think that actually when you learn something for commentary, it's probably a little bit different. I think that when I'm playing Mario and I'm thinking about it in the scope of
actually
commentary, it's a little bit different from being a player. Yeah.
Right.
Instead of observing all of the times where you lose time or save time, I think you think more about actually no, I think that instead of thinking about, like, I guess you think more about like how much time you save or lose, rather than like why you save or lose that time.
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess the way that I learned speedrunning is pretty good for commentary in general. I think that there's like a couple different styles to like learning speedrunning. I'd say that I kind of learn it step by step. It's hard to describe. Like, people speedrun or learn speedrunning differently, and I'd say that I learn how to do things properly, and then I move on. And then there's a lot of speedrunners, like, I guess Cheese would be a good example. He learns all the things he cannot do if he wants to do it properly, and then he moves on. So my process is shorter, but also my process is prone to less flexibility. But I think as a commentator, all you need to know is like how something works, rather than like all the things that make it fail.
So ultimately, as a closer question to that, do you think it's worth it learning a game, like playing a game before learning to commentate it, or do you think it's not necessary?
I think at least on a baseline, it's definitely gonna improve your commentary and your understanding, obviously, of the game. But I think in no way do you need to be a top level runner to be able to deliver very good commentary for these games.
Interesting. I think that's important, because I would imagine as a commentator, it might be really hard to learn a game by play a bunch of speed games to be able to commentate them. I don't think that's necessary either.
You just have to be aware. Like, you definitely have to be paired up with somebody who knows a lot or understands like the difficulty. I think knowing the difficulty of things is important, because if somebody gets something, or misses it, it's important to know how hard is that. Because if they're
Yeah.
missing something that's really hard, it's like, oh, okay. Or if they're executing something that's really hard, it's like, oh, okay, they got it. Like you don't really know, and that's definitely an important part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that learning the speed run will always make your commentary better. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I think that having good commentary doesn't necessarily mean that you are a hardened speedrunner of the game, though. I just think it's kind of an enhancer. But yeah, you definitely need a baseline if you want to relate to like other runners when you're commentating. I think to people that don't know much about the game, you could probably get by, but I think the like true passion for the game that you're commentating really shines through if you know what you're talking about.
For
Definitely.
Sure.
All right. I think that was a pretty good coverage of play-by-play. Is there anything you guys wanted to add on that before moving on?
Basically, just that now as more people get into commentary, and later on I'm gonna invite people again to give it a shot, because obviously this is expanding pretty big right now. We've seen Twitch announce stuff with like speedrun tournaments right now, and it's really getting pushed into this esports level. So everybody is gonna look for people, and if you think you are passionate about a game, and one huge thing that I wanted to bring up, you don't necessarily have to have the best voice or have to have the best, like I have the worst accent ever, but if you work with what you have and if you're willing to improve, you can deliver great commentary, and I think people like these will be needed. So you should probably look into this, make that step, and maybe even join like the GSA Discord, the public Discord, and ask for like a commentary role, and people will teach you. And I just wanted to say, you can think about that, and you can say, okay, I'm just I think I'm good at commentating. So I think I'd be a good play-by-play caster, because I could adapt my skill set into different games, and I could like kind of play them and do my job there. But if you're super passionate about one particular game, you can still be a great caller caster, because we will need these people that explain time saves, that explain how stuff works. Now that we are getting even more new people that watch speedruns for the first time, so we need good color commentators as well that can explain what is happening efficiently without like branching out for like an hour.
Yeah, that's actually a super good point. I would argue that in those cases, especially like when GSA might be on front page, or these things like what is it? The Twitch has like $25,000. Is that
Twitch
is that
Rivals is called? Yeah. So
yeah,
Twitch just announced this thing called Twitch Rivals, that Twitch themselves run these tournaments of different games and stuff, and they just announced a speedrunning tournament of Mega Man 11 that they're gonna have. And there's a $25,000 prize pool,
which is insane.
Yeah.
And that's going to be drawing a lot of people, who have no idea about speedrunning and no idea about the speed game. And that's exactly where color commentating is like super important. And you need to think about, okay, is this the typical audience, or is this like a new audience? Are a lot of people here sure what's going on? So I think that's a good point.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think I myself have like never even seen a Mega Man 11 speedrun, so I would definitely be in need of someone who explains me the strats that I'm watching. But even still, if the race is super close, I want the commentators to embrace it. Like if there's like a 2-frame difference between them and they're talking about how much frames that strat saves, I don't care. I want to hype them up what's happening. So we still are going to need both.
Yeah, definitely. It's good. They complement each other really well. Because you can't always be play-by-play. Like sometimes there's just nothing happening, and you're just
no. You
they're
can't.
walking and they're moving the guy.
I realized I actually realized like I've seen that you guys when that kind of stuff happens, you guys kind of like realize it simultaneously, and you start just basically like talking to yourselves and like just talking about your day and just like bringing up stuff to fill in the intermission period of nothing going on. And I've seen lots of clips of that, and I think that's really important, because that creates like an immediate feeling of like intimacy in the commentary in the race, so like people could really like connect, I guess.
I think that. Sorry. I think that what separates a good commentator from a really great commentator is noticing the gaps, right? Sometimes, when there's nothing going on, there's nothing to be said, nothing really on screen that's really stimulating enough or entertaining enough. I think that being able to fill it in is good, and I think that having a lot of personality really helps that. Also, having a good partner or something like that. And I think it's very important moving forwards, and I think that also like developing that personality can really help with like I think that with play-by-play commentary as well, if you have worked on that, is a lot better. I don't know. I guess something like that.
Good points.
Yeah, I think that I will say filling in, like I know me and Pitt, we'll like Taco Bell is like a perfect
Taco
example.
Bell.
We love
Yeah.
Taco
Chalupa.
Bell. But I think there's a fine line. Like you don't want it to seem boring. Like if you can have a solid conversation, that's awesome. But there's definitely a line there that you're crossing where it's like, oh no, is this like boring to people? Like
Yeah,
should
and
we
I
be
think
talking about game mechanics as
Yeah, I
opposed to
think it's
Taco Bell?
I think it's really easy to get stuck in that place too. I think that sometimes you can get really off track if you try to fill the gap and you just go like really far like into like outer space. Like you could be talking about like I don't know, like ancient Rome or something while people are in BBH and Super Mario 64, and that could be
Yeah.
good.
So I feel like if a race is close, it's not even necessary to cover these these gaps. I guess the gaps just don't happen as much if a race is super close. But
Yeah.
if something happens early and someone is ahead by a lot, and it kind of gets like a boring race, or like a decided race, which is in most games actually never the case. But even still, if that happens, there's even other options. Like that's a great option, especially if we have established duos, because there will be these insiders like the Taco Bell thing, and then Dangerous and I kind of are already like an established duo. But I think there's other things that you can do, and like three that I want to bring up. One, obviously, being just focusing on what needs to happen for the guy in the lead to lose the lead, because most of the time if we expect him to play like solid, the race is like decided. But if you just hype up the moments, like a very hard part of the run, and just focus the viewers on how much potential time loss the segment has, and remind again, okay, if he fails this, he's actually going to be behind, or if he fails this, the race is going to be way closer again. Just bring that up. Even it doesn't matter how unlikely it is. As soon as you get people still interested, and people are going to think, okay, maybe it's not over. What if he dies here? What if he fails? You need to remind people about these for sure. Otherwise, you lose them and they'll just leave. And then two other things, if that's like not feasible at all and someone is like super fired, you can always go back to the PB thing. I liked hyping people up. If there's a potential PB on the line, suddenly people wouldn't cheer as much for the race, but they would still cheer for the person that is on potential PB pace. And we've even seen like race world record stats, and in the future when we branch out more to stats, we could even talk about something like this tournament's best time, he's about to get that, or something like there's actually a lot of other options as well.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Piggybacking on that first one, actually, that's a really good point. Like, and I've noticed that I do that naturally. I didn't really think about that, but like, for example, if somebody's going into Dark World, like that's where a lot of people die. You're like, all right, here comes Dark World. You know, we've seen a lot of people die here. Can he make it through? Thing. That's a good point.
I think that like Super Mario 64 is also kind of set up in a good way for that too. I mean, like the hardest stages are at the end of the game, so it really you like really never know who's gonna win. We had like the 120 star relay, and like one team was ahead by like 3 minutes of Rainbow Ride, and they lost. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You never really know. I think Super Mario 64 might be a little bit extreme in that case, but yeah, it can never really count someone out until the end.
So that kind of brings me to the next point. So like talking in general about like the dread of races that get decided early, right? So that's the thing, right? Sometimes there's a lot of times you think a race is done and then it's not. So what are you guys' opinions on, when that kind of happens, or when there are two players playing that one of them, obviously is a lot more skilled than the other? Do you guys have to adapt a lot? Is it harder to commentate those kind of races? What is it like?
Well, I'd say that the people know when the commentators kind of decide that like, yeah, it's not really a race anymore. But I think that you try to like hold on for as long as possible. you know, just to see, you know, maybe the comeback will happen. But if it's a best of 3, they got destroyed first game, they're getting destroyed second game. What you can do is you kind of just like adapt what you're talking about. You kind of talk about like, you know, I've been seeing some good things from this player. We'd love to see him back next time. You know, they're really on the rise. Or you talk about, you know, how good the person in the lead is, or, you know, you just talk about the game, talk about the tournament, you know, talk about I think that actually like delving into the players' mentalities can be really good. I think that like, you know, we a lot of the times, at least Simp and I, we talk about like this guy's way in the lead, but think about, you know, that kind of pressure. Because like there can be, I mean, you could put pressure on anything. You could be way behind and there's a lot of pressure to get like save time. You can be way ahead, but there's a lot of pressure to stay ahead. I think that like there's a whole like genre of speedrunning that's like mentality and speedrunning that's like really good to touch on.
Definitely, especially in races.
It's very interesting, and I think that races are, you know, a thing that people really aren't used to. Most people just sit there and they reset their runs when they're not going well, and they're not really forced to continue per se. I mean, I guess they're not forced to in our races, but I think it's a completely different dynamic. It's unexplored, and I think that the mentality thing is always really good to talk about, like regardless of what the lead is like.
Sure. Yeah, I think as well. Once again, you need to look at the situation and judge from that. Like if someone has just a minor lead that the other person easily can recover from, definitely focus on what the runner that is behind needs to do to catch up, and give him some spotlight when he's going through a phase where he could potentially get his lead back or get back into the lead. And if it's like completely ridiculous and the skill gap is also there, then use the time, as you brought up, to talk about the game and still like potentially go back to that style where you say, okay, there's still this one thing that could happen, even though how ridiculous it sounds, it could still happen because we've seen insane stuff happen before.
Yeah.
And, we have.
Also, by the way, if you go into a race with like a skill, make sure you don't have to say, by the way, guys, you don't really need to watch this because his PB is 6 minutes better and he's definitely going to win. But if you could actually turn it around in a way that you could say this race has like a huge upset potential as well, because if this player was to win, that would be like the highlight of this tournament. So I hope you cheer him on. And you can also,
I like that.
That is pretty good.
We
actually saw like a massive upset in the non-sub 70 star. Liam King, seed 16, took down Lunar Jump, seed 1 in like round
crazy,
2 or something. It was insanity, and he took a 2-0. Like it was crazy.
Not only that, in the Big Sim 16 star, Ouija losing to who did he lose to? Super Viper.
Yeah, Super Viper's the upset.
Super Viper beat Paracusia in the 120 star tournament for GSA. Paracusia fell off the carpet.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. Like,
and this can happen. Like, it's,
Super Viper. But that's something else that's so interesting about speedrunning tournaments, right? So there are players that don't have the best PB, but they are amazing and very consistent at every tournament they do. Custom is another good example. Like Custom always did well in every tournament, but he's not out of the top 10 even in either category. So like, but he always does well. And the same for Super Viper. Viper is the same thing, dude. It's like, yeah, it is different round, whole different story.
Yeah, I think that Super Viper is really a consistency player, and I think that that has a distinct advantage in races. I mean, I think that, you know, going in and knowing that, you know, as long as you stay calm, you can get a certain time, and then shooting for that time that's pretty good. I think that, you know, the players that are used to resetting more and used to more volatile strats, I think that they have to battle themselves more when they're racing than consistency players.
Right.
Definitely. All right. I think that was some really good coverage. Is there anything you guys want to add on those topics before we move forward?
I guess just one thing that I want to bring up again is this is new for all of us. Like, I mean, there's channels like Speed Gaming that have been around for quite a while now, but the way speedrunning has been treated this year, and just like right now with like this Rivals tournament, like 25K in the prize pool is ridiculous, but none of us would have even like thought about like 2 months or maybe like half a year ago. And this is new, and people, I think, also like the viewers, it's something new for the viewers, and make it easy for them to transition. And that's why I'm saying everybody that wants to get into commentary, like look also at other esports as well. Try to learn from that and make it comfortable for them to adapt to this, because people in the speedrunning world, they are like super used to watching attempts, you know, and attempts are like a completely different world, because you are just going to chat about stuff, and the streamer will talk to you. But that's not going to be the case in the future anymore, because if we transition into this esports speedrunning world, things are going to be more like commentators explaining the game, highlighting the events of the race. And and once again, I really wanted to bring up, make sure to join the GSA public Discord, because there's definitely huge opportunities. And I'm not even just thinking about like these prize pools, but just getting your name out there and enjoying your passion, like speedrunning, in a way that you can commentate, teach people, and make unforgettable memories. We've already had like insane clips from these GSA races, so make sure to join and try it out. We are going to be looking for people, and especially people that want to improve. Like when I am talking to guys that want to try out a commentary with me, I'd rather take someone with an accent, or like with an unoptimal voice, if you want to say it that way, that is super willing to improve and super excited, than someone with like the best voice you ever heard, and he's like, "Hey guys, welcome to GSA. We're gonna have a race." You know what I mean?
I'm critical.
Do you guys ever think that having, you know, a bad mic or just a low quality mic in general is a big issue?
It's definitely annoying, and it's an easy fix, you know. Like, I mean, not everybody can afford like the best mic, but there's relatively good cheap mics out there. I know Chimpany, who's like a pretty famous streamer in the SMO community, has like a $30 headset, and his headset sounds like amazing. So as soon as if you make that investment, it's worth. Because I think that's something that definitely suffers, like the quality definitely suffers, but you can fix it easily. It's not impossible to do it with like a low quality mic, but it's an easy fix that improves the quality drastically.
I think that definitely, if you want to get into commentary, enthusiasm is definitely, I think that's the greatest quality that you can have if you want to get into it. I think it's very important. You know, whether or not you think you're a boring person, or whether or not you think you have anything good to say. I mean, I think that kind of stuff is kind of developed as you go. I think that as long as, you know, you're really like dead set on improving, you just really want to commentate, you'll be good. And
you can't really go ahead.
Oh, I think that, you know, having a bad mic, you know, that's kind of rough, but I mean, the mics really aren't that expensive, and speedrunning isn't really an expensive hobby in general. So I think that if you know you don't have a good mic, maybe you can just, you know, still join the Discord, you know, talk to us, try to, you know, do commentary on your own, and then you know, get back to us when you have that, you know, $30 headset.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to add on, like, getting into commentary, I did not see like where I am now coming when I was, because like I stopped playing Mario and I wasn't doing anything with Mario or anything like that. And I saw the speed gaming tournament and I was like, oh, you can do commentary. Like, that's cool. I'll give it a shot. And I just loved it. So you never know. If you haven't done it, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. It can be a lot of fun. And it's really cool, especially as you get better and you improve, to see that people like your commentary, and you see familiar faces, and people are like, oh, I'm here for the simp commentary. I'm here for the pit commentary, the duo type
I've
thing.
seen people say that in the chats too. So like that, it's really good to see that. Yeah.
I also thought of one more point I would really like to make too. I think that one of the most important things in commentary is confidence. You can't be afraid of being wrong. I think that I see a lot of commentators, you know, kind of stay really reserved. They don't want to say anything that they think that, you know, it might be wrong, or it might be like not completely right. And I think that confidence is really important. You can't be afraid to talk. And then if you are wrong, you know, you have your co-commentator to back you up. You can always check the chat later, you know, correct yourself. I think that, you know, saying it and being wrong and then learning for next time is more important than not saying anything at all. And you know, commentators are human too, so don't be afraid of mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can just bring up again that I've been getting good feedback as well from people about my commentary being enjoyable, and I'm not a native speaker, so that's definitely not a barrier. And if you are just fluent in English, like fluent enough, and you can express your passion, you can do it. You can do well as well.
Right. So I must mention real quick, having some Discord issues. The cams are kind of freezing every few seconds. I don't know what.
Wait, okay, hold on. When you're in Discord and you do the virtual cam, do you have your cam maximized in Discord?
I don't know what that means.
Like you share and then are you seeing your own cam like as the biggest thing?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, then never mind.
Go to like tools, virtual cam, and then click stop.
Yeah, I did, but it's not. It didn't really do anything. There's a lot of freezing going on.
Is Discord freezing or is it OBS that's freezing?
OBS is fine.
So is it Discord?
The voices sound fine. It's just the cams on Discord.
You could just leave and rejoin.
I'll try. Give me 1 second. Oh god, guys. Discord is freezing hardcore. Oof. Okay, I might need to restart Discord real quick. Give me a second, boys. Discord, please. We need to restart Discord real quick. Discord is oh god, it's going really bad. I had an update. I hope that was the issue.
We could do like a 15-minute. Hello.
Okay. Hello. Oh no.
Is everything out of whack?
Everything is completely out of whack. What happened here? Holy crap.
How is that possible?
Technical difficulties.
Oh my lord. What is this?
Just redo it.
Oh my lord.
Is this just the cameras are out of order?
I have to completely redo all the cameras again.
All right. So while you're doing that, we can just continue talking.
All right.
Yeah, we can.
So I did want to do a little bit of backpedaling, going back into the quote unquote no-goes. Like you got the low quality mics. On top of that, just ensuring that you have like a proper setup. I mean, like most of us, obviously, we've all done a lot of commentating or we've done a lot of talking on Discord, so we know that we have a decent setup. But making sure that you have at least a audible setup, so your voice isn't cutting out, super helpful. Also, like we've covered plenty of times, being enthused, having enthusiasm is important. You got to be enthused. But if you're like dry, you're just talking kind of monotone, it kills the vibe. It really does.
Yeah, it's a huge difference between someone once again talking in this monotone tone, especially once again in these more intense segments. Like if you guys have seen any SMO speedruns, there's like this mech fight, and if somebody like listen to the difference. If somebody's like, yeah, and he's about to backflip, and then he's gonna ground pound the bubble, he's actually throwing him off and going back. If somebody's like, okay, this is gonna be big now. Stravo's doing a backflip right now, throwing his cap. Will he actually miss the hit? It's just the way you use your voice, and don't be that guy that just sits back and doesn't really care or sounds like it.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about that, and I would definitely rather have a commentator be over the top than a commentator just not even exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to dial someone back than it is to like turn them up.
And also going off of that, there's something to be said about, especially when you're duo common, and if you're not a familiar duo, like you guys don't really have an energy, you haven't commentated together. I think it's really important to make sure that you're not stepping on each other's toes, and that can be done by being like, if you both commentated before, you can be like, yeah, I like doing the play-by-play, and then maybe the other guy's like, oh yeah, I like doing more color. Then you can get that going right away. You're like, okay, so I'm going to take care of the hype.
Exactly.
Okay, we got the
And I think one of the easiest fixes is if you meet up, there's most likely going to be like a voice call with the restreamer before the race starts. And there's just one simple question that you can talk to your new like co-commentator with and just ask him, okay, if we start our points at the same time, who's going to finish first? Like if you get that out of the way and say, okay, if we both start at the same time, I'm going to be the one that finishes my point, and then I'm going to give it over to you. If you just say this before the race, it's going to improve the dynamic immediately.
That's a really good point.
I think that flexibility is very important when you're working with someone that you don't have experience with.
Yep.
I think especially if as you develop as a commentator, you'll incorporate color commentary and play-by-play commentary, and then sometimes if you see some guy plays better as play-by-play, some player some commentator plays better with color commentary, you kind of try to fill the other role. I think that duos and commentary, that's actually something we didn't really touch on much at all. I think that I don't know, Lim, if you really have like a equivalent partner in SMO yet, but
yeah, I would say so, at least kind of, yeah. And it's huge. Like, it adds a lot.
Yeah, the chemistry.
Like Simply and I, we have that. And definitely, like, if you're trying to find a partner for commentary, it won't go perfectly right away. Like Simply and I, we look back, dang, we were booty, dude. Like,
yeah, definitely takes a little bit to get used to.
Yeah, it took us like at least 5 matches. I think that we were afterwards. We would just always just talk with your partner afterwards too. What did you like? What didn't you like? Simply and I were doing that. We were like, oh yeah, I think you were stepping on my toes here. Like, oh yeah, I think this like I guess like establishing like what's important to your duo. I think that's very important. Like I would just be like, yeah, if I'm saying something that is like not that important, just like go ahead with like whatever you're gonna say. But if something I'm saying is like crucial and should like this point should really be finished, then let it finish and then do like the play-by-play or something like that.
Do you guys ever think, or do you guys think in general that more than 2 people commentating at the same time is ever a bad thing?
No. And I have a pretty good point to prove it, because we were actually trying out the TriCast thing for the SMO Bingo finals. And that's also something that you'll see in other big esports like League. Actually, all of the big League matches are TriCasted, and a lot of the CSGO matches, at least when I was watching back in the day as well. Oh, really? And if you go in without preparation, it can be chaotic. But if you prepare and assign roles before, it can actually be very good. Because sometimes even with a duo, especially if we get into the point where race gets stale, you will run out of things to say. But if you have 3 people together, it's rare. It didn't happen at all, actually, in these bingo finals. We had a very good match. It was pretty close as well, but we assigned roles and it worked out great.
Okay, interesting.
I think that definitely the more commentators you add, the harder it is to achieve a balance and a synergy. So I think that like what Lim said is they really prepped for the 3-minute commentary. I think that's very important. If you're gonna go over 2, you need preparation going in.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess that I have one more thing I want to talk about, and I think then we can move on to a Q&A. I will obviously check in with you guys, but I want to talk about improving. Like, how do you guys personally go about stepping up your game? Do you watch yourself over? Do you watch top commentators? What's your play? Lim. Go ahead.
I start. Yeah, I think my biggest inspiration in commentary is 2 things. So actually, there's one really good panel that I can recommend anybody that wants to cover like the baseline of speedrun commentating. Which there was a panel at GDQ by like Spike Vegeta, a bunch of other people,
and
like
a few others,
J-Hops and so on. Pretty good panel that just covers the baseline of speedrun commentary. And I try to watch a lot of professional other esports commentators. Like if we look at play-by-play, someone that I tell everybody to check out first is like Anders Blume. He's like he's American, I think, but he's like a Swedish, or maybe Swedish, I don't know. Sometimes these Northern Europeans don't have any accents, but he's amazing at play-by-play. And if you watch any game that he casts, you'll get excited immediately. I guess it's very easy to to watch Counter-Strike because someone is getting shot at and you know what's happening. But even still, he does a great job when it comes to play-by-play. And there's great casters in pretty much every major esports that you can learn from. And if you I would say, identify what you're familiar with is a play-by-play and color, and then check out respective casters in other games. What do they do? How do they do it? And then join the GSA public Discord and join the monthly caster meetups, because we are going to cover all of these topics that we think are important, and especially something like how to really voice training, how you use what you have, and how to do awesome things with your voice. And there's tons of ways, but I'm probably mainly using inspirations from other big games at the moment.
Sure. How about you, Pitt?
I think that what's really good for me for improving is I always after each time I commentate, I look back and I think just on what part didn't flow well, what gap could I have filled better, what did I actually talk about in that gap, could it have been better, I just think in my head what did I literally say, and then I just write down anything I didn't think was good or anything I did think was good, and I just think about it. And I think that vocabulary is very important in commentary as well, because obviously you're commentating the same game over and over and over and over, and over again, and you see the same stages, the same stars, the same whatever. And I think that vocabulary is very important. It also helps you express yourself differently, and I think that having some good words that you use that maybe no one else uses is good. So I like to write down a few words or phrases that I could use that are kind of unique to my commentary.
Right.
I think that when I started, I was kind of piggybacking a little bit more off of synth, but as I kept going, I kind of developed that.
Definitely.
And as for my favorite commentators, or the commentators I like, I really like Phil and Homemade Waffles for Super Smash Bros. Melee. If anyone watches them, I think that they have a really good balance of talking about the game, how it is from their perspective, and I think that they're very good at talking with a lot of personality and how they feel about things, and they're also really good at filling the gap. But I think that they always put the importance of the game above what they're talking about. I think that Scar and Toph they're a good commentator duo, but I think that the thing that I just don't vibe with, I guess, personally, is I feel like they get sidetracked too much. I think that they're very good at talking about stuff that isn't the game, but I think they get lost there a little bit.
They're very story oriented.
Yeah, I think that can be good, but I like the stories too. But I think that there's always a time and a place. Scar and Toph, they have that great style when there's not maybe much to talk about, but I think that Phil and Homemade Waffles, they have a really good balance together.
Right.
I do think it's important for us to at least kind of be aware of the fact that it's very good for us to compare us with these people. If we compare us with Smash casters as well, but they do have one big advantage right now, which I think we can't really do right now. If someone says, he just did an auto canceled nair or fast fall or whatever, these terminologies, they can expect viewers to know about them, because they're at the time right now where people that are really into the game, they know these terminologies, they know the tech, they know the stuff. In League of Legends, nobody's going to explain how to farm minions. They're going to be talking about jungle routing or whatever. But we right now are at a point where we probably need to explain stuff still, especially when we have these front page spots. We can't expect people to know what JRB cannonless is or what flower road skipper SMO is.
Right. Or even what JRB means.
Exactly, not even any operations.
Yeah, I think that's good. Knowing your audience at the time is very important. It's a good point that you brought up. If you have a lot more viewers than usual, you can bet that those viewers probably aren't used to your commentary and haven't been around for much. So I think that always explaining things simply if you can, and also explaining things or not, I guess not taking things for granted, that people will know TikTok clocks. Sometimes just expanding a little bit on that kind of thing is important as well.
And giving some backstory.
Talking about. Yeah. Give that perspective.
Definitely. I got a couple points on improving as well, and then I think we're good. Maybe. I like to watch back my commentary and see like what I personally find entertaining, what I like happen. I think that can be very valuable, but also like you guys said, watching other top commentators and if you like something, like I personally will take words. Like I have a document full of synonyms for the different things that I say. And like when I hear a commentator say something that's like funny or entertaining, or I'm like, oh, that's a good way to say that. Like I'll take that and put it in the safe. You know, pick what you like. Obviously, don't copy somebody, but you know, you can definitely like make a framework.
Right. Develop your style.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Is there any final things you guys wanted to talk about before we segue to the Q&A?
I think we covered a lot. Once again, last call here. Make sure if you feel like that's something for you, try it out.
Give it a shot. Really though, give it a shot. You might like it. You might love it. It might change your life. You might become, you know,
seriously
daddy.
You could become the next. Yeah, you could become the next dad on the scene.
The invitationals would have never been a thing if I didn't try commentating at Speed Gaming. Like just doing it once, I was like, all right, I'm sold. And all of that has happened because of that moment. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess what is it? Is it exclamation point Discord? So you guys can type questions in the chat, or you can type them in the Discord in the questions channel. It organizes them a little bit easier for us. If you could direct a question at somebody, that would be cool too. And when you guys just see a question, you know, feel free to fire it off, answer it. I think we should do maybe, what do you think, Cheese? Like 15 minutes, 10 minutes Q&A?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay.
Should be good.
All right. Bring them in, gentlemen. What do you want to know about life? We've got it all. We know all the answers.
Unfortunately, I don't have my laptop doesn't work anymore, so I can't actually check. I don't know how I could check the questions channel.
Yeah, I got
like,
you.
Just like, you know, blocking you guys' camera.
Yeah. No, I got you, Bob. Who is the biggest dad? That's a tough one. I don't know.
I mean, come on, Simp, you're obviously the biggest dad here.
No, I won't beat around the bush. We all know. What's up. No, Limcube's growing though. Limcube's dad size, like it's pretty impeccable.
All right, so first question off the bat, apart from the dad question, which is pretty important. When can we expect more infos for the GSA SM64 League?
Probably mid-December is when we'll probably flesh that out more.
So
you can expect, you know, a lot come January, but I'd say probably about a month.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, the process is going on right now of finishing outlines and organization in general. All announcements and all that kind of stuff would obviously be later on, like probably around mid-December, like Pitt said. Like official announcements and stuff like that.
You might get, you know, little, you know, bits of info here and there, but nothing officially stated, I think.
Yeah. Will come soon. What were your thoughts on Cheese's task commentary at GDQX? Really informative, which in that kind of, I mean, everybody's seen Mario. You're not going to do a play-by-play like, oh my God, look at the robot. It's now going fast.
Right.
You're going to be, he was like stuffing as much as he could in to inform what was going on. So I thought Cheese did a really good job. It's so short.
Cheese only had 5 minutes. He was going off. He had a script. I knew it. He was going crazy.
I worked on that for like 2 weeks. I had a script of like 1,000 words in front of me, and I'm like, all right, we have 4 minutes, and I was proud of myself.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think the setting's very important. You know, is GDQ and it was tasks. Like, you know, tasks you're really supposed to, you know, tell people what's going on because people won't know what.
And you have to find a way to tell them in a way that they would understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
That was
at least.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at least you have the benefit that a task in this game looks impressive. Like obviously it doesn't look normal, so you can at least kind of hint on that.
Yeah, so
nice.
It was my first ever exposure of real in the moment commentary, and it's tough, dude. It's tough. Like commentating it's just a little bit scary because you feel under pressure to perform in a different way than playing the game. Because like when you're playing the game, you don't have to worry about talking. All you have to worry about is you paying attention to yourself and what you're doing. But commentary is like, it's not. It's a different kind of pressure, but it's like exciting. It's like you're exuding the energy and the personality, and it's great.
Yeah, it's a different skill set. I think that, you know, when you're speedrunning on stream, you can always just fall back on your skill in the game, or you can always just, you know, focus on the game. But commentary, you're kind of like, it's kind of like ride or die sometimes. It's a feeling.
Right.
Definitely. Bad Ronus asked a pretty solid question. Would any of you like to tackle that one?
Is it the long question?
It is the long question.
The one that says long question.
No, I can sum it up. Basically, he's saying like CSGO and Melee, these games are reactive. Like it's different every time, but speedrunning is the same. You always are expecting them to do the same thing. So he's asking, what's the opinions on having more energetic play-by-play and improving your commentary as someone who wants to do more in the future?
Yeah, I think I brought it up earlier again. You kind of have to twist it around, and I feel like you obviously you still go with expectations into a melee match or into a CS:GO match. Obviously, someone is gonna step up and make a play, but that actually can happen in speedrunning itself, especially in these bingos lately. We've seen some super creative stuff, but not even there. Like, we've seen some unique strats and definitely cover them and highlight them as they happen, but also do it the other way around. Even though something is expected, highlight again how hard it is, highlight what he's actually doing in the moment, and give perspective on like how risky or how big that moment is right now. If he misses one input, he might lose a minute or something. Like show that off again.
You know what I think is actually good about speedrun commentary though is that so let's say again I CS:GO, right? There's still like a play-by-play thing because there are basic strats and just tech of each game, right? So people will explain, you know, in this part, or you could do this thing in CS:GO, you could throw the gun and I see people do that a lot. I don't know what it's about. You know, there's certain things you could explain every time, right?
Yeah.
But in speedrunning, there's a ton of play-by-play things that you can go through in every run, right? So you always have something else to talk about after, I guess, which could be an advantage in speedrunning. It's just that you have to, the hard part I think is you have to find a way to explain it in an entertaining way and not just be like reproducing, you know, information.
Yeah, because I mean, that's not fun for the commentator or the viewers. Like if you're literally saying the same thing, like you can spice it up, you can change how you're approaching it. Gotta get creative though, definitely. Speedrunning there is some hurdles as in commentating speedrunning.
I'd even say set yourself up to, sorry Pit, I'm gonna give it back to you one point. Set yourself up to expect like the unexpected. Like set yourself up in a way that you think he's gonna fail that strat, and is he actually gonna make it? Ask that question like continuously. And
then you can time it if he gets it.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm for real.
Go ahead.
I think that you know, obviously these games, you know, like fighting games and like, you know, shooting games or whatever, they always have that. It's always very easy for them to fall back on play-by-play because, you know, they're quite literally seeing the interactions between one player and another and the adaptation. But you know, speedrunning has a lot more like knowledge-based stuff to fall back on, and we always know what's gonna, like, you know, where they're gonna go next or whatever. So that can be good to, like, you know, prepare like what you're gonna say. And also like I think that they're like more similar than people give them credit for. Like at the end of the day, you go into the game with a goal. In Super Mario 64, it's, you know, get a certain amount of stars and beat the game. In Super Mario Odyssey, it's beat the game as fast as possible. And then like games like Smash, it's like you want to take 4 stocks. And then games like League of Legends, you want to destroy the base. So I think that, you know, the games are more similar than maybe people give them credit for. It's just, you know, you can always focus on the goal as well in speedrunning and in those other games. And they usually do focus on that. Like who's, you know, what are they going to do to win? What are they going to do to win? It's the same thing. It's just, you know, how you approach the scenario.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Quick, well, I guess it's more of a point. Okay, so we're loosening the rules when it comes to emulators and competitive speedrunning be beneficial for the competitive scene since it makes practicing and competing more accessible. Well, right off the bat, again, every game is different, but the games that do have like emulators and console runs, of course, Mario 64 is a good example again. Well, they're actually allowed, at least I could speak for GSA on behalf of GSA, on behalf of like speed gaming and stuff. I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure they allow it. It depends on the game. It's situational, but most of the time emulators are allowed, depending on in OT, for example, emulators aren't allowed. But yeah, it's definitely situational. I can speak for SM64 and say emulators are allowed. VC Virtual Console is not, because Virtual Console is pretty massive of a difference to emulator and N64, but it's situational. I don't know what you guys' opinion on that is.
Yeah, I think that emulator will always help accessibility, but the players that usually the most skilled players are on console. I mean, just like going by, like what I've seen. And, adding in that emulator can sometimes cause bad feelings because usually, in most cases, emulator has an advantage over the console. So it can leave, a bad taste in their mouth. And, we're doing competitive tournaments that, people compete for money in. So going forwards, I think making sure that things are as fair as possible it is good, and obviously as accessible as possible too. I think that's also very important, but I think fairness is more of a thing that we should strive for than accessibility, because I think that anyone who's like very motivated will go with whatever the standard is.
Okay, so
yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I was gonna make a point. Limcube would be back in T-minus 30 seconds. Don't worry, everything is fine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, there he is.
I just have a quick point on the whole emulator VC thing. I think it'd be interesting to at least experiment maybe with adding a deficit. I don't know what you'd call it,
like a time tax,
a handicap
or
kind of
yeah.
thing, or
reverse handicap. I think that'd be interesting.
I think it would be weird because like where would you add it, right? Because if you add it for like VC over N64 and 120 star, like where would you add it? Would it be at the end? Would it be in the middle? Because like at the beginning you'd be seeing someone start 2 minutes late.
Oh, so, I think you just add it at the end. I think ultimately at the end, like maybe you just start their timer later or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, if you start the timer, we could see actually they start with their timer at 2 minutes or something. We'd have to. I think that's an interesting perspective, and we'd have to do like a lot of research and work too, because we need to be very accurate in the timings. And obviously, consoles like N64 that lag more, like we'd be taking like an ideal run on N64 versus an ideal run on VC. But the more if you make an equal amount of mistakes on N64 as an equal amount of mistakes on VC, chances are you'll lose more time than the difference because you'll be sitting there eating lag. So it's hard to do you see like where it's hard to like kind of measure the differences? So definitely we're trying to adjust as we go.
Yeah. So we've reached the 10-minute mark. I think you guys have great questions, but in the interest of time, we want to keep it digestible for people who are interested in hearing more about commentary and like what they should know, that type of thing. So I think we are going to call it there, if you guys are okay with that. And it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. I think this is a pretty solid conversation. Got a lot of good points, a lot of golden nuggets. Make sure you join the DSA Discord if you're interested.
The DSA.
The GSA Discord if you're interested in some commentary action. And
also the Two Dads podcast at Discord. So as you guys see, the Discord command, we got everything. My Discord, Two Dads, GSA, SM64 Discord. So just join all of them.
Yep. Shout outs to Piti and Limcube for joining us once again. Thank you guys. Make sure to drop them a follow. You can find them on Twitch at twitch.tv/Piti and Limcube, twitch.tv/Limcube. Solid commentators. I'm Simply.
I'm Cheese.
And this has been the Two Dads Podcast live. We will get this up and running on the podcast apps
and
Android.
YouTube as well. But yeah,
YouTube.
And in the Discord, we will keep you guys updated on the next episode and who's the guest, etc., etc. So thank you
so much.
Love you.
Have a good one.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.